Hey y'all, let's go to the garden and pick some collard greens. Got a little rain this morning. It's a little sprinkling a little bit. We have some collard greens right here and a few over here, so let's harvest. So with collard greens, you just start around the bottom here, and I just brought some scissors out, and I'll just cut starting with the bottom leaves, and if there's a few insect holes in them, that's okay. And I just check to make sure. We're just going to harvest these bottom leaves. I've already harvested some down below here already. Just going to go around the bottom, cutting next to the plant, and it's just going to keep growing through the center. This has a lot of caterpillar holes in them, but that's okay. We'll work around those. These smaller leaves will be more tender. The larger ones, just have to cook them a little longer, but they're still delicious. And usually I get them as big as, like my hand spread out, that's about the smallest I would get right here. So what you can see here is just this part here we're going to leave. So let's go down the row. You would get right there. So this will continue to grow from the center. Starting to rain a little bit, that's okay. See, that's just from two plants right there. Let's go ahead and go around. Okay, so we have a nice pan of collard greens. We'll take those inside and wash them up and get them cooking. And most of these will go into the freezer here. So we have our collard greens in a sink, and I've put a plug in there, and we're going to fill it up with water, and I'm going to wash them, and then I'm going to fill up the other side of the sink and run them through a second wash, and then they'll go into that pan and wait to be cut up. So I did pick a few that were pretty worm-eaten here, and then one that was pretty old and tough. Those will go to the chickens. They love them. I'm just gonna just agitate them around a little bit because of the polypropylene landscape material that we have down in the garden. There's not a lot of dirt on these, which is great. going to agitate these around for a while. So we're putting some water in the other side, and what I do here, in my second sink with water, cold water, is I'll just take, and I'll just swish it around like that. And then I lined the basin with a clean towel, and I will just start to lay these in there, and the towel will soak up a lot of the water. And once those are all done, we'll be ready to cut them up. Okay, so I finished washing up my collard greens, and now we're ready to slice them up, and they're going to go into this pot. I have put some, maybe a tablespoon of olive oil on the bottom. I like to add a little bit of oil to the bottom of the pot to kind of get them going. I have some jowl bacon that I had in the freezer. It's already been cooked up. It's a thicker bacon with a lot more meat on it, and I'm going to chop that up, and that's going to be some flavoring. You could use any kind of flavoring you like, as far as any kind of smoked meat, leftover ham, leftover sausage, smoked turkey, anything to give it, just bacon, regular bacon, or an oil like your olive oil. So we're going to get these cut up. I do cut the stems up. I chop them up because they will cook, and these are going to be, they'll go into cartons to be frozen. So we're going to get started. I'll leave some water on them. That helps in the cooking process and makes what's called pot liquor. Some damage like that, I'll just leave that. I've checked them all for insects. My larger leaves, I'll set those aside, and I'll chop them up together. We may have those tonight. Some of the larger leaves go to the chickens. But these younger leaves like this, those can even be sauteed. They're wonderful sauteed with garlic. And they don't wilt down quite as much as kale and spinach, to where you have this big old bunch of greens, and all of a sudden you just have maybe a cup that it comes down to. So I'll cut off about that much of the ends there, and that's chickens. For the chickens, they'll love that. I've got my chicken pan right here, and I'll set that down there. And so as far, I cut the stem about a 1/4 inch. Some people will actually tear the leaves off the stem, but since I've just harvested these, they're just fine to cook. I'm going to put those in my pot here, and so we're having a farm-to-table meal. That's the fancy term that a lot of restaurants will use. In fact, they even have farm-to-table restaurants. Well, my family, we've been having farm-to-table for years. Now we're going to have collard greens.
With pieces of bacon.
With bacon from Iron Hill Farm. And then from Major's Farm, where we get our raw milk, I ordered some pork sausage from them. So we're going to have that tonight. From their farm, the Iron Hill Farm, jowl bacon, some greens, some collard greens, and I'll probably fix, I have some corn from the Vicacall Farms. I taught those kids corn we got from them. So what I do is I roll my kale up, my collards, and you can cut them however wide you want. Mine are about 1 inch wide. So what you end up with is strips like this. And that will just go into the pot here. And as I add them, I kind of toss them in that oil there. And like I said, my big ones, I'm going to set those to the side and start with my small And my sink is clean, so I'm just going to plop them right down into my sink there. There we go. I like to add maple syrup. Okay, for these bigger leaves, what I'm going to do is I will just cut down either side of the stem, and that will go for the chickens. And then I have my half leaves here, and what this does is, these stems will be a little tougher, and those will go to the chickens. So my young leaves, I cut the stems up. My older leaves, I take them out. Some people I see use scissors. It's just as easy for me to use my knife to do this. I didn't have any grit in the bottom of my sink from washing, so that tells me that there was not any on here, and that's because of like I said, the landscape fabric that we used. So here I have, a stack of half leaves. You can cut them again in half that way, and roll them like before, and go ahead and slice them. This does take a little bit of time, but it is well worth it to have collard greens that are in the freezer, already cooked, seasoned, ready to go into a dish, pop in the microwave or on the stove. So I'm going to go finish getting these large ones cut up. Okay, so I have all my collard greens cut up, and that made, this is a 8 quart pot, so about 7 quarts. And I have my gel bacon that I'm going to pull out and just kind of give it a rough chopping. And this is going to flavor. Bacon. This jowl bacon, it comes from the cheek. It has a lot of fatty tissue in there, which where the fat is, that's where the flavor. Some people add apple cider vinegar, but like I said, once mine get cooked down, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of maple syrup. But this bacon, this jowl bacon, it comes from the cheek. It has a lot of fatty tissue in there, which where the fat is, that's where the flavor. Some people add apple cider vinegar, but like I said, once mine get cooked down, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of maple syrup. There, okay, and then I'll add some salt as it kind of cooks down there. So I mixed all that up, and we're going to get it on the stove and get it steaming, and then turn it down really low and put the lid on it and just let them cook. Okay, our collard greens have been cooking for a while, so let's take a look. You can see this pot was full up to here, and you can see how they've wilted down. And they are finished. They've been probably cooking for about 45 minutes. I added some salt and a drizzle of maple syrup. And I've come in every now and then and just tested the doneness. They're not mushy. I like just a little bit of firmness in them. So these are perfect. You can see the jowl bacon in there. And if you put ham in here, or put quite a bit of meat, this could be a one-pot meal. Make you some cornbread or have some bread with it. You can see the pot liquor here in the pot. it's taken on the color of that bacon, and there is a lot of nutrition in collard greens. There's calcium and iron and magnesium and phosphorus and potassium and vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So they are a good source of nutrition. The serving, which is about a cup, even has 5 grams of protein. With that, and that's without any meat in the. We can grow collard greens pretty much all winter, and we may get a frost, but it really doesn't harm them. Just like kale, it's pretty tough. Used to, it was considered a very inexpensive green to buy. I know things are high in the store, and it's a pretty fast growing vegetable to plant. They can be planted in containers, so also good for New Year's a day when you have to eat those greens for, I think it's wealth in the new year. So I hope you've enjoyed this farm to table dish here from my backyard farm to our table tonight. Bye, y'all.